This is Joe Pugh for IFLTV, joined by the face of IFL at the minute. He's on that often with more and more announcements. Kalle
And
Sauerland.
more to come, and more to come, my friend, and more to come.
Good, that's what we want. We'll start off with yesterday. MF Pro long-term deal with Dazn. If Wilder Chisora weren't enough to get us all excited, just another teaser of what's to come from MF Pro.
Joe, that's why this piece here is a double announcement, you know. But I did tell you in January. I said we're busy, and you will reap the rewards. So, on the back of the announcement of Derek Chisora Wilder blockbuster that goes on a very hot sale, let me tell you, at 2 p.m. I've seen that the pre-sale, the O2 pre-sale, completely sold out, and it goes on general sale at 2 p.m. Looking forward to seeing how that moves. But on top of that, the new kids on the block, MF Pro, you know, new kids on the block, that makes me feel really young, you know, makes me feel really young. I love saying that. The new kids on the block, MF Pro, have landed a long-term broadcast deal with a home of boxing, Dazn. You can watch us globally, you know. I was saying before, the beach in Bali, the surfboard in Hawaii, the traffic in NYC, and the rain in London, right? You can watch it anywhere. See, Joe, for you, that's so normal, right? For me, that's not normal, right? I'm 48, right? I've been doing this 27 years. I remember having to pedal out like Japan, Malaysia, Romania, Turkey, you know, all these little TV deals. I was talking to Frank Moran about it the other day. It's like, that's what Dazn for us promoters has really done. It's allowed us to get global in a single deal, and we're delighted to do that. It's a massive trust from them to have gone with us. Delighted to be joining the platform and you know, putting on our fights. You know, you see with the first show announced with Chisora Wilder, working together with Queensbury. You know, look, I've worked a lot together with, obviously, with Eddie and Frank Smith in the past at Matchroom, but we've done lots with Queensbury as well. So you'll see lots of elements of that coming in. So it's delighted to be part of that family. Obviously, we have the Misfits relationship with Dazn as well. So, you know, that our relationship with Dazn just grows through the group of businesses that we run, and delighted with that. Delighted. And to reward that, we start with a banger from Belfast, the big arena in Belfast, the SSE Arena. This fight was originally supposed to be on at the Garden in New York on Paddy's Day. That didn't quite work out with a venue and also the Dazn stuff happening in the background. So we've taken it to Belfast. It's the undefeated American Kevin Walsh, King Kevin Walsh, 19-0, taking on the prodigal son, returns home for a very last time, Mick Conlan, in Belfast, Friday, March the 20th, SSE Arena, exclusive, globally live on Dazn. We're delighted with that because it's such an important fight for both fighters. True 50-50 fight for the marbles. You know, it's a shot at Shushu, and both of them go on from that to headline what undoubtedly would be at the Garden, because you've got Shushu from Brownsville, yep. Mike Tysonville, New York, taking on, you know, we hope and we believe Mick Conlan, who's, you know, got a few fans in New York, let's put it that way. What a night that would be. But let's not go look past Belfast right now. Absolutely massive night for Belfast. Tickets go on sale Monday, and just delighted for Mick as well that he gets another run out in Belfast, you know, that he gets to put such a big fight in his hometown. Not, you know, as a promoter, of course, would have loved to have done it in the Garden, but this fight in Belfast has also got its advantages. You know, the atmosphere in Belfast. I'm told my old man promoted there in the 80s, and he told me putting a big fight with McGuigan and Shitterudi there in the 80s, and he said the atmosphere in the Ulster Hall was amazing. That's 2,500. So the SSE Arena in Belfast lit up. You know, I'm just very, very excited, as you can tell. And it's not because it's a Friday. It's not a normal Friday.
We're about 5 minutes in. I haven't even asked you a question yet.
Oh, you know, like I've rehearsed this. I'm reading off a script.
What, like Eddie?
I've got one of those auto cues going across my screen as we're talking. So hold on. I hope it doesn't say that. Yeah, well, I've got it right. I'm okay. You can tell I haven't got my bins on. I wouldn't be able to read it anyways.
Right. So it is Mick Conlan, Kevin Walsh, 20th of March, SSE. Just pick up on something you said there. Returning home for the last time. Is that
Yeah,
going to be Mick's last fight in Belfast?
I believe so. Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, obviously the aim is the WBC now, the big green belt, and I'm realistic as a promoter that fight wouldn't be in Belfast. You know, so yeah, that's and it, you know, for Mick it was important. We obviously did Dublin last year, fantastic evening, amazing atmosphere in Dublin, and it's you know, we're delighted to take him back to his home city, and on a personal note, I'm delighted because I get to promote a show in Denmark. I've done a in Denmark, in Belfast. I came to Belfast with Mikkel Kessler before a fight in Denmark once for Brian McGee, and it was an amazing atmosphere. We did this public press conference there with Brian McGee back in the day, and me and Mikkel was sitting there and we're going, wow, this is like, yeah, the Danish atmosphere is great, but this is just as good, man. And that was just the press conference, so. Yeah, just very excited.
Yeah, if that's not a reason to get a ticket, I don't know what is. The last time to see Mick Conlan in his home city. As you say, 50-50 fight, undefeated. Since you signed Mick, what is it, about 18 months ago now, just coming up to 18 months,
Yeah,
he's really kind of kicked on, and realistically, and he'll say it himself, it was shit or bust for
yeah,
Mick Conlan, and he's delivered. And we can only hope now that he comes through this and he gets a world
yeah.
title fight.
No,
Harrington.
but you hit the nail on the head. But the thing is, it's every fight's like that now. Yeah, so, you know, he loses this fight and it ain't looking good. Let me put it that way. And Mick will be the first to admit that. So, you know, he's one of those guys who's been around the sport as an amateur as well. You know, he's from this amazing fighting family. Well, I don't need to with him. I don't need to guide you explain things boxing wise. You know, he explains them to me. But it's one, you know, and these are the sort of fights that you have to go through to get there. You know, I'd say that on the plus side, I think, you know, even at MSG, this fight would have. You know, we've had a very big Irish crowd, but he would have had, obviously, Walsh would have had his support as well, you know. Would have had, you know, but the fact it's in Belfast, I hope it gives us some advantage as well. I know it's lovely to say it's the last fight, and, you know, that's brilliant, but really we need that Belfast crowd to be the third man in the ring, so to speak.
If not Carrington after, should all go well. Is there one eye on this weekend, Nick Ball versus Brandon Figueroa?
Yeah, look, there's so many interesting fights, and especially with, and I guess that links in nicely to the announcement yesterday with the Dazn deal, is it makes it so much easier to make those sort of fights. Of course, this weekend, a great fight. I love watching fights out of Liverpool because also it's one of those cities, you know, it's a fighting city. It's got such great boxing history there, so that's a super one also on the Dazn this weekend. But you know, the other one is, of course, Warrington Wood. You know, that situation, those two names, especially the latter. You know, that's one that Mick, I remember signing him, he said, I want Wood. And I'm like, well, what about world title? I said, no. Well, I need to fight Wood again. You know, so he's got that somewhere in him as well. But I've got to go and steer the ship in the way that I can, first and foremost, control to an element, and that's we've got a goal. We're number 8 WBC. This puts us right up there. We win this, yeah, and I don't think it's even a fight that has to go to a mandatory situation, a purse bid situation, or something like that, because Top Rank worked with them lots of times over the last few decades, and they put fights on with them. They're businessmen. They'll get it, and they'll look at this as they work with Mick Conlan also over the years. They know exactly what he sells in New York as well. And you put 2 and 2 together, you don't need to be Einstein to work out that is a phenomenal fight to put on in the Garden. So, Shu against Conlan for the WBC is a massive Garden night. It doesn't have to be Paddy's Day; it could be any day of the year. If you do it on a Monday morning, it would be sold out. So it's a great storyline. But obviously in the background, we want to get excited about things, but it's the fight on March the 20th that we've got to focus on now. My job, of course, in the background is to steer a ship. But, it's, again, we can look at all the different fighters outside of the WBC route, and we've got to be doing that. We've got to be having the conversations where they're appropriate. But first and foremost, we've got to be looking at, the route that we can control, and that's the route down rankings, challenge, world title.
So MF Pro announced 2 bangers in the last 6 days on a fighter front. Kalle, is there going to be some signings imminent?
I didn't think I'd get out of this for that. So obviously had Vidal at the back end last year. Colin's fight is under the MF Pro banner. The next couple of weeks there'll be a big reveal. Let's put it that way. A big reveal of how the stable looks, and but we've already had some great signings in the States as well. Look at David. If you haven't looked at him yet, go check out David Dynamite Lopez. Yeah, Amir Anderson. Who's a more of a novice coming through. He's done fantastically well. Beat Joe Laws in his last fight, and so there's some very nice American kids coming through, but we're not going to mess around. We're gonna work on a deal that makes the stable very, very large very quickly. In terms of names, not interested in some supersonically massive stable. That's not really the ethos of the MF Pro. I said that at the time when we launched it. It's about a stable with quality over quantity. It's about focusing on names and making stars. So we're not looking to sign 50 fighters tomorrow. We'll I say it's not our first rodeo in doing these things. So it might be the new kid on the block in terms of the brand, but I've had to do this a couple of times before. So I think we're on that part. I'm delighted the way it's gone. And sometimes these things break for you in boxing. Sometimes you've got to wait a bit of time. You have a run and it's all good. And that's great. But we don't get carried away with that. We've seen that too many times. I've had bad runs for years, and then they're good runs for years. And just don't get too low, don't get too high. Just keep it real, and just keep moving. And the more announcements, positive announcements you can make, the better. Unfortunately, boxing isn't always that way. I know that, and so do all the promoters. You look at Frank, Frank Moran is the great survivor in the UK. Yeah, incredible his journey. But he's testimony of the fact that you roll up your sleeves in boxing and you stick in it. It's a great sport. We can always talk about boxing's dying, boxing's doing this, boxing doing that, mate. It's a very simple recipe, right? And it doesn't matter what year it is, what decade it is, what century it is. People love to watch a tear up, right? It's as simple as that.
100%. And I'm not going to say who, but last night I was having a conversation with someone, and they said that they asked me, "Do you think Wilder Chisora will do well with tickets being it the week before Fury Makhmedov?" And I was like, "Are you fucking mad? Like, this is gonna absolute sell out." So 2 p.m.
I'm assuming that they were tennis fans.
Yeah, probably. They probably play paddle
fans.
like your brother.
Paddle fans, yeah, that's my brother. That's not me.
Yeah, it's going to be massive, isn't it? And if Monday was anything to go, sorry, Wednesday, if Wednesday was anything to go by, It's going to be
Did you?
huge. So get your
By the
ticket
way,
2 p.m.
listen, you've been. I mean, you're still a very young man, but you've been at a few of the big press conferences now. Do you know what? In the UK, when you do a big presser or when you announce a pay-per-view fight, I can almost tell you who's in the room, right? I can almost like to a T. If I had to write a list of 100 of the suspects I expect to be there, and with pay-per-views, you normally get the big blockbusters. You then get the dailies turn out as well. Whether it's Jeff Powell at the Mail or there's these faces that you just know are going to be there. But then what I found on Wednesday was quite interesting. Yeah. And people said, well, what's this got to do with Misfits? And I said, well, it's the same group. It's a totally different business. Misfits, MF Pro. But you saw one of the first benefits to it. And I'll tell you what it was. And that's why it was, I think, the largest press conference I've seen in terms of a media turnout in the United Kingdom. That includes big Saudi shows, everything else. And I'll tell you what it was. It was 20% extra because you had a lot of these sort of influencer types turning out, and they reach, again, a totally different demographic, So it was great to see how that world has benefited what MF Pro is going to do now, and they'll had a good laugh about the circus world, and that in a way that's what it is. It's crossover boxing, and MF Pro is traditional boxing. It doesn't take a genius to work it out, and it's just it was really interesting to see it sort of in a room where whether it was I remember doing the first, actually in the same room I did Eubank Ben, the very first one. People forget there were actually three of them, and the very first press conference, and it was exactly the same turnout. Exactly the same turnout. The only difference was you had that 20% extra. That's why there were more people in the room. So the turnout was insane for it. Insane. I think even Derek got a bit like, you saw the smile. He was just happy that so many people turned out for him, and obviously for Deontay. People underestimate what Deontay represents in this generation of heavyweights. Longest serving WBC heavyweight champ, but also he's going to go down when he eventually retires, and that might be on April the 4th. He's as the hardest punching heavyweight of all time, which in essence means the hardest punching fighter of all time that's ever stepped into a ring. So that's something that, and that's not Kalle saying, that's the Ring magazine, put that down as their list of panel of experts who've done that. So that's, I think, a statement in itself. Very, very excited.
Last one, is there going to be a seat ringside available for Simon Jordan after we all saw the carnage that unfolded at Talks?
Well, I don't think on the Wilder guest list, but certainly on mine. No problems. I haven't got any wars with Simon. He's a journalist. He asks questions. I guess he asked, the question around Fury was one that hit a nerve. As a journalist, to ask a question about a trilogy of fights with another, a guy who actually created this generation of heavyweights when he beat Vladimir Klitschko, and they had those three amazing fights, especially the third one, for me, one of the best fights I've ever seen at any weight, let alone and it was a heavyweight, like a Rocky movie, so to ask about Fury is, I think, that's journalistically fine. He's then gone and he's pushed the button on the accusations and said, where's the evidence and stuff like that. And I think he does what some journalists do, some don't. He kept pushing on the button, and he got the reaction, So, but that's also a bit of Simon's style is to get up in your face, and I mean, credit to him. I certainly wouldn't have got up in his face. I'll tell you that now. I wouldn't have got up in Deontay Wilder's face. Crikey.
Would he have done it if there weren't 4 securities in the studio?
Yeah, that. I mean, I've done a few heated ones with Simon, especially around Eubank Ben and that whole episode. I remember, and it was. But I was, I wasn't the let's say the offended party at the time. Let's put it that way. But I never saw security when we went in. I didn't see Eddie when Eddie went in. So yeah, I guess there was quite rightly. I've been quite nervous about pushing any buttons with Deontay Wilder in a room with no security. I can tell you that now. not gonna put on some brave macho Kalle part there. No, definitely not, man.
Those days behind you,
the
right?
size of it is frightening, but the fact that what's in those fists is, yeah, you probably, like I said, the hardest punching heavyweight boxer of all time. So, was 4 enough is the question.
100%. Kalle, thank you very much. Yeah, 1 week, 3 massive announcements. Wilder'S Chisora tickets go on sale 2 p.m. today. MF Pro long-term deal with Dazn and Mick Conlan versus Walsh, SSE Arena, 20th of March.
Tickets on sale Monday.
Tickets
not today
on
with that
sale
one.
Monday.
So you got your weekend to get the plans in for that one. Friday, March 20th, in Belfast. A banger from Belfast. Can't wait for that.
Can't wait, mate. Thank you very much, and I'll catch up with you soon.
Absolutely. Take care, Joe.